If one were to die, you would do anything but cry. But life still went out of it. See? There are layers between you and the ant. What do you think the layers are between you and God?
Welcome to AskAWiseGuy, the podcast where we take today's top stories, break them down, and give you the insight you need. Augustus V is here to dive into the headlines, answer the questions that matter, and provide the wisdom you won't find anywhere else. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button, like this episode, and share it with friends who need to hear it. Now, back to the show.
Alright, how's it going? I want to talk to you guys about something that I think many people are very scared of. Let's just call it what it is. It's fear. And it's understandable. But I want to bring some clarity. I want to talk about the draft, and not just the draft, but I want to talk about the lead-ups and what this means, not just on the surface. I want to really dig into this. See, there's a reason for everything. And I don't mean to sound cryptic here, but when you're dealing with the lives of young men, it's very easy for people to get caught up into the what ifs. It's very easy for people to get caught up in the motion of the E motion. See, the electric motion, the electronic motion of one's being. See, because that's how motion moves. It moves just like electricity. It moves just like electronics, which sometimes do what you need it to, and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it does what you want it to. Sometimes it does exactly what it wants to do. Yeah, that's how emotions are. And when you're talking about the lives of young men, yeah, emotions are riled. So I want to bring some clarity, because clarity, though it may not always bring comfort, it at least gives direction. Now, due to the shadow ban that YouTube has and my choice of content as of late, I assume that we're all, if not brothers, we're brotherly here. Or in other words, we're all men here. See, those that are listening to this right now. I know many have been filtered out of this channel by choice. People filter themselves out when they can't handle truth, and there's been enough truth on this channel for people to just filter themselves out. That's less work for me. I don't need a moderator. People emotions, their own emotions, are my moderator. See? So maybe the shadow banning is a good thing. But anywho, let's get to it. This draft, it's not a issue for the layman to really understand. It's not. If you're a common thinker, you're not going to understand the draft. If you're a thinker, you're doing better than those that aren't even thinkers. And those that listen to this channel know exactly what I mean when I say thinker. I mean a philosopher. See, someone that at least follows or practices a philosophy in the ancient sense, not this new stuff, in the ancient way. If you're a thinker, you're ahead of most. See, but if you're a thinker, a lay thinker, what do I mean when I say that? Someone that focuses their attention on the smaller things, on the simple things. Not saying you shouldn't, but someone that only cares about the simple, the opposite of the obscene. You're not going to catch what's going on. See? And I tend to side with that way of thinking. I tend to side with the primal way of living life, the stoic way of living life. I side with that. But there's a point in wisdom where you have to rise above that which you agree with. It's beyond what you prefer. It's beyond your preference. See? And the whole idea of wisdom is understanding that which is above you until you rise above you. See? So I side with the primal thinker, with the Spartans of this world. I'm a Spartan myself. But to understand this draft, you can't look at it from a Spartan perspective. Even though it deals with war, you could get a good acceptance for what's happening if you take the Spartan perspective. But it's not going to make this one make sense. Why? These boys haven't been initiated into manhood, so they're not ready. See? So that cuts out the Spartan dynamic right there. In order to send a boy to war, you gotta initiate him into manhood first. So what's going on? See, already, if you're keeping up by now, you can see what I mean when I say this isn't for the lay thinker. No. This is for the Roman. You have to be Roman. You have to think like a Roman to understand what's happening here. Because this draft is Roman business. That's right. This is for the Romans of the world. And it's not going to benefit the lowly. It's going to benefit those at the top. Once again, with the Donald, you have to understand, he is a capitalist. He's not a Marxist. He's a conservatist. He's not a liberal. His religious, well, we're not going to get into that. That's another distraction. But one thing that we can all say, one thing that we can all agree upon, is that he is a Roman. Whether he's one of the better of them, that's not for me to say. I can't say he's not an Epstein Roman, right? We know he's not the party animals. He's not one of the party animals of this world. He's not a Diddy of this world. He hasn't taken the path of Diddy or Diddy's handler, which name doesn't cross my mind at this moment. But he's a Roman. And he was brought into the position that he's in because he's a good Roman. He always was. See? And when you understand Rome, it makes all of this make even more sense. Because that's what this country is. And seeing that this country is a world power, first world power, that's what this world is. It's Rome. See? If you ever need a reminder of that, just Google the power that the Pope has over all religion. Just Google what he said in the year 1990 and how that affected religions all the way up to the year 2000s. And what he said in the year of 2000 and how that affected religions all the way up until the year 2010, all the way up until today. And look at what he said in 2020, and you'll get an idea of how that's going to affect all religions until 2030. Why? Because the literal capital of Rome is the capital of all religion. See? Of the world. That's how all religion is being ran. It's being ran at Rome, in Rome, physical Rome. But spiritual Rome, that's the world system. That's the world power. See? So, America is actually the military capital of the world. We have a military base in every place in the world that makes sense, that has some kind of relevance. See? We have a base everywhere that has any kind of relevance. Last time I checked, that's not supposed to be allowed. Is it done by conquest alone? These are questions that we have to ask when we consider a draft. See? And that's why I did this masculinity check just in the beginning of this, because the emotional, they're not going to be able to keep up. They're not going to be able to keep up. The haters, they're not going to be able to keep up either. And I don't mean haters of me, of my content, not even of Trump. No, I mean haters of good, haters of righteousness, haters of truth. Those haters won't be able to keep up. People that have too much hate to have clarity, because hatred, too much of it, clouds judgment. hatred is another dog. You have to put it on a tight leash. You have to have a communication, a relationship with it, so that it knows if you take it off of the leash, not to go wherever it wants. See? But of course, that's not being taught today. So this is a heavy issue. This is a heavy issue because we're dealing with the entire generation here. Now, I want to bring out a point that many people aren't going to look at. Now, I'm going to give the lay thinkers more credit because they may see this one coming. But I have a follow-up to that also. But this draft will do something patriotic for this generation of boys. It's going to give them an opportunity to be initiated into men. It's going to give them opportunity. See, when someone's sent to the military, their mentality snaps at a point. It snaps into whatever they're being trained to become. See, the training snaps them into a different way of thinking, living. It snaps them into it. You could call it hypnosis if you want. You wouldn't be wrong. Let's be honest. These training tactics were encouraged, if not invented, by the intelligence, the studies of the CIA. See? So it works. And if it's CIA, it's hypnosis. But aside from that, no one snaps out of nowhere. No one goes in and then just leave crazy. It doesn't happen that way. And no one goes there and then just gets killed off just because they left either. That doesn't happen either. It doesn't work that way. That kind of controversy, that kind of upset will lead to rebellion. And one thing Rome would never sign up for is unnecessary rebellion within the people. Not the people as a whole. Don't get me wrong, there's many upsets that are intended for small rebellions, small uprisings, to ensure that this group will be brought into one place and then decimated in one instance. And decimation doesn't mean obliterated from the world of the living, from the land of the living. It doesn't always mean that. Today it means decimated from the world of sanity. It's sent to a loony bin somewhere, sent to concentration camps, things of that nature, things that don't make the news. So there's many ways to skin that cat. But when it comes to sending these boys into our military training system, our boot camps. See, that's gonna upset a agenda that's been underway and that has a lot of money has been spent to orchestrate. That's gonna upset the woke agenda within our boys. That's right. If this generation of boys, which are already leaving the world of intoxication, see, the Zennials, they've given up on intoxication. So Gen Alpha, they're not going to want anything to do with it. That's going to be the real Jim Bro era. Gen Alpha. So that they've already left effeminacy in that sense. No one taught them to do this. See, turning up just got old. That's all. But now we're sending them to a place where they can all be properly initiated into men. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. This isn't an upset. This is what everyone's been praying for. See? And the most interesting thing about it is they're being drafted when there's no war to be fought. They're being drafted in December. Do you really think they're going to be sent to Iran? We don't need our young boys being sent to Iran. We already have enough of what we need for Iran. By the time December gets here, Iran will be a done deal. See? Now they may be sent to occupy it. All those kids may be sent to occupy it, and that's a different story. Though those may be our defense units. But this is something that many have been praying for. They say be careful what you ask for. And if you're praying, you're asking from God. So be careful what you ask God for. Because you just might get it, and you may not like it when you get it. Even if it comes from God. We pray for a generation of strong men. This is how it's done, by a draft. This is the historical way of building strong men. A draft. And everyone, including the so-called men, are uptight about this. Well, I'm not against a draft, I'm just against it right now. Oh, I'm not against the draft, I'm just against it with this president. Oh, I'm not against the draft, I just don't have no standards. See, my standards are doubled. See, that's what's going on here. That's what's going on. There's no better way to toughen up a generation than to give the boys purpose. The girls, what are they going to do? They're going to fill the jobs, fill the positions. But over time, they're going to follow suit. Not going to war, no. Becoming traditional. Because as far as America goes, boys becoming men and fighting for their country is traditional and is ancient. And women supporting those men every step of the way is traditional. See? It's traditional. So the girls, they may stay in the workforce for a little bit. They may take up all the jobs for a little bit. It's only to wait for the boys to come back. See? And when the boys come back, the girls have a choice. Do they want to repeat the Woman's Act from the 60s? Or do they want to take it back to the 50s and come back home? See, this draft is going to teach us a lot about ourselves as a nation. But what it's going to also show us is what the Zennials and Gen Alpha has learned, how they see us. Do the Zennials and Gen Alpha resent us enough to be better than us? Not just different, better. Because usually whenever there's a generation that resents their predecessors, they don't care about being better. They just want to be different. But my hope is that they resent us enough to become better. See, that's my hope. If you notice, all the kids that hate their parents, so to speak, they have hunger. The kids that love their parents, they have nothing to fight for. They had it all, even when they've had nothing. See, it really doesn't matter if the parents were righteous or not. Righteous parents get hated by their children. It's the same as evil parents. It's the path that the child takes. See? So, if this generation, these up and coming generations, if they hate their parents enough to leave mother and sister and brother, see, as Jesus said, I think he threw father in there too, but I don't remember. I don't remember if he put father in there or not, because the father's the one that pushes the kid out the home. See? But if they resent their parents enough, it just may push them to try different, and then to consider better. See? The different comes natural when a generation resents their predecessors. That's natural. They just naturally want to rebel against the order that they were brought up in. That's a whole other world that we could deal with on rebellion. But better requires guidance. Masculine guidance. Better doesn't come from the mother. Sustainability, reciprocation, that comes from the mother. But productivity, that comes from the father. That requires masculine guidance. See? And that's what these boys are gonna get. Boot camp is a masterclass on masculinity, on manhood. And that's the question. That's the question. Are the Zennials and Gen Alpha ready to be initiated into manhood? Were they prepared properly? See, there's going to be a lot of cross-dressers being sent. Oh yeah. A lot of the transformers, they're going to be sent. The ones that were in the process of transforming, they're going to be sent. See? It's going to be a lot of filtering, I'll say that much. A lot of weeding out. And the question is, what happens when they can't make it through boot camp? Now, I can't get into too much details, but I'll say this much. They won't get to go home. There's not one veteran that we know of from Vietnam that failed boot camp and had the opportunity to go home. Not one. You never hear of a Vietnam vet that got injured in boot camp and was able to go home. No, not during the draft. If you got injured in boot camp, you healed in boot camp. And then you went at it again until you passed. See? So this is going to be an interesting one with all the transformers, all the cross-dressers, all the soft voiced, caved, bird-chested boys. See? All these fatherless boys. All these feminine energy, divine feminine worshiping boys thrown into this foyer of masculinity. There's going to be a whole lot of filtering. And each of these boys are going to be given an option, a choice, a decision to make. Do you remain soft, or do you consider the path of the man? See? I think this should have been done a long time ago. I think this should have been done a long time ago. With systems like this, the boys can't afford to be soft. If this generation of boys knew that there was going to be a draft, as young kids, they would have understood they can't afford to be soft. If their parents were soft, they would Google check their parents on their rhetoric, on their doctrine, or the lack thereof. Really on their indoctrinated opinions. They will fact check everything, and they will say, wow, my parents are living in their own world. Kids are always going to say that about their parents, right? But on this matter, they will say, I can't be soft. Maybe my dad was able to be soft, but I can't be. See? Now, I may have to check this real quick. I might do a search. Allow me to chat GPT this real quickly. Allow me. What I want to know is if the girls are going to be included in this draft, which I don't think. Are the girls going to be included in the 2026 draft? Not the NFL draft. Chat GPT. Isn't it great to have woke technology that has the common sense of the woke left. Not the WNBA draft. The military draft. It is worse than talking to a Wookiee. Okay. Only men are required to register for the draft. Specifically, males ages 18 to 25 must sign up. They said that they pushed it to 40 something. Oh, I believe it when I see it. But yeah, this is this is good. This is going to be a good thing. Now, for the girls, that's going to be interesting, very interesting. A lot of these girls are going to start sharing men in the States. That's just, it's not even a prediction, that's just history. They're going to start sharing men. The successful men, that's going to be a given. You're going to see a lot of guys walking down the street with multiple women. That's going to be a sight to see. And I mean, everyone's pretty much polygamous in this country anyway, having multiple baby mamas and women having multiple baby daddies. But women having multiple baby daddies, that's going to start to dry out because there's not going to be enough to choose from, and women are going to start realizing that they can't afford to play that game anymore, even if the government is providing for the household of these children. That game is going out, is running out. Last time I was in LA, just driving by those streets, I seen, every time I'm out there now, I'm seeing homeless women, fairly attractive women. Of course, they're not all dolled up, they're homeless, but you could tell when a young lady is taking care of herself. You could tell when she has a attraction agent to her, or attraction element rather. You could tell. And I've noticed every time I'm out there now, it seems like there's another girl standing outside of a apartment complex with bags. See, with bags, luggage, and she's not packing for a flight. See, so the jig is up. You know, playing the system and using men to do it. That jig is up. It was never supposed to last anyway. So with this draft, it's going to force a lot of people to act like they have a brain, to at least act like they have some common sense. See, because we know we're at the point of no return when it comes to common sense. But this is going to force people to at least act like they have common sense. See, where we're at a point right now where when you talk to someone, they wanna put on a mask to appear that they're actually a psychological expert. See, that's cool now to be a psychological expert, and people want to put on masks speak to you as if you should respond a certain way, and if you don't, then there's something deep within you that you need to get checked. See, when in reality this person knows that they're the last one that should be throwing rocks at a house. See, but that's a mask that people are wearing today, and it's not them acting like they have sense. See, that's people acting like they really need a white van to pull up on them with a bunch of white coats, and the people to talk to them like children and slap those cuffs on them and throw them in that straitjacket. That's how people talk. Now, if you notice, see, they throw on a mask to appear like they're an expert, but they're actually talking to you crazy. And if you don't respond a certain way, there's something wrong with you. That's gaslighting 101. See, and a great man always will repeatedly say, you got to look out for the sign language, the shame, the insults, the guilt, and the need to be right. And they just cycle that around. Shame you for not agreeing with them. Insult you for not giving in. See, insult you for what you believe and what you stand for not believing in what everyone else wants you to believe in. Put guilt on you, try to put guilt on you when because you're still standing. See? And then when you still stand and the guilt doesn't work, and they ran out of tricks, oh, well, I guess I just gotta be wrong then. Oh, I guess the need to be right. Yeah. This is the result of a nation, a socialist nation, a nation that isn't ran by values, but is ran by opinion and whim. Buildings aren't made off of opinion. Building structures aren't formed by whim, where somebody felt that the material should go. It's built with structure. Building structures are built with structure. It's built with order. It's built with reason. It's built with rationality. It's built with formulas. See? And it's built by masculine hands. Why? Because the way of the man is to be fruitful, to multiply, to replenish, and to subdue. Those are 4 pillars right there. The cornerstone is to be fruitful. That's the cornerstone. You build off of that one. What does it mean to be fruitful? That means that you're being productive, because that's what fruit does. Fruit, what does fruit produce? Seeds, which allows you to multiply. What's multiplying? That's the scaling process. Replenish, that's 10x. That's when you're scaling across pieces of land, regions rather. That's when you're scaling across regions. See, that's replenishing. We're replenishing the earth. See, that's when you go worldwide. And then subdue it. Subdue it. Micromanage. The company's yours, and now all you have to do is just manage everybody, show everybody how to run everything. See? That's the way of the man. If you think about it, can you believe there's women trying to do that? Well, this may be a side note, but can you believe there's women trying to follow those 4 pillars? They've gassed our women out. See? And here we are, a generation of boys that aren't ready to fight a fly. Better yet, an enemy on the other side of the world, if we really even have one right now. I had a discussion with a good brother the other day, and his hypothesis, his prediction of what's going to happen is that a lot of these kids are going to get wiped out. The eugenicist theory, right? And what I will say to that one is, if that's the case, then it's our fault. As men, we have to still be accountable for this. We can't play the blame game. We had enough time to prepare for this. We had enough time. It's been about 60 years since we had a draft. We had enough time. We had enough time to do anything other than sitting on our hands. We had enough time. As men, we have to hold ourselves accountable. We can't say, oh, it's the president's fault, it's the government's fault. No, these are our boys that we brought into this world with the women of our choosing. Look, we all had the Malcolm X tapes. It was on YouTube the whole time. There's no excuse. Just Malcolm X's teachings alone with the nation and especially after the nation. Those teachings alone are enough for you to figure this thing out. There's not a lot of them, but there's enough. We had enough time to prepare. But these are our boys. See? So it's not the government's responsibility to make our boys tough. It's not the president's responsibility. And because it's not their responsibility, it's not them for us to blame. We're American. We may not have chose to be born American, but we chose to stay. So you have to do the American thing. You have to raise your boys to be men. Not to agree, not to comply, to be men. See? Whatever happens to these boys is our fault. We're gonna have to answer to God for what happens to these boys. Not the president. Us. We're the ones that allowed them to be weak. I'm gonna do a brief segue. I'm gonna try to tie this into the topic. But I seen a thumbnail for a video. Didn't even click on it. But it was a so-called black man, so-called man that was saying if you're past your 30s and you don't wear hats, then you're soft. Of course, I didn't click on that. You know, my time's too valuable for that. But I thought about that for a second. It was so off that I couldn't help but try to figure out where this guy may be coming from, right? And my conclusion is that that's that street rhetoric, the hip hop era. He was Gen X, so that street thug era rhetoric that makes sense in that world, right? Maybe to some. Then of course there would be the Gen X that would say, I knew plenty cats that didn't wear hats that were hard. See, there's many Gen X that will say that, right? But many from that era will understand what he's saying. Now here's the problem with that. This was a grown man saying this that had enough time to mature, had enough time to analyze his upbringing, had enough time to reassess what he was exposed to. That's who was saying this. See, and that's alarming. To be of age and to be lost, not stuck, lost in your ways. What does that kind of thinking have to do with being a man? What does that have to do with being fruitful, multiplying, replenishing the earth, and subduing it? That's small talk. Hats, fashion is how you judge another male's masculinity? Fashion? Oh, we have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of work to do. Work beyond the point of no return. The jig is up, the game is over. I don't mean to be a doomsdayer, but there's a lot of beauty in doom. There's beauty in it. You just have to be tough enough to see it. You have to be tough enough to understand that, or you have to be tough enough to be able to keep focus in the middle of crisis. To keep your standards in the middle of Armageddon. See, you have to be tough to do that. See, so saying this to close this out, because we're passing the 60-minute mark, but saying this to close this out, this draft is an opportunity for our boys to become men. Will we lose many of our boys? That's not for me to say, and that's not what I want. So I'm not gonna put it out there. I'm not gonna say it. But as a man, I have to reason, and I have to consider. As men, we have to consider this. This is what may happen. We may lose some of our boys in this. See. So this is an opportunity for the survivors to come back as men. See, this is an opportunity for the survivors to come back as men. Now my question to those that aren't going to be in the draft, my question to you is this: what do you have to offer these young men when they come back? Do you even have enough sense to show gratitude when they come back? When you find out the stuff that they had to do when they were out there, are you going to feel some type of way about them? See? Or are you going to be ready to exude and demonstrate that masculine figure, that masculine energy that they need to see from their elders? Because see, this is how we got in this in the first place. When the father can't raise the boy, uncle will usually step in. And if the uncles couldn't step in, if there were no uncles, then the positive men in the area will step in and say, hey, aren't you Cheryl's boy? Hey, come down over here, meet me at the shop after school. I'm gonna get you some lunch. See? Just like that. It's that simple. That's simple. He goes on to school, you call the mom or get in touch with the mom, say, hey, is it alright if I talk to your son for a bit? I wanna give him some advice. See, just that simple. And I know the mothers are something else these days. I know what's going on. But once again, we can't play the blame game. We gotta look at ourselves. Because who chose these women to have kids with? See. And I know I'm preaching to the choir right now. These talking points, we're so past the point of no return. These talking points aren't even relevant anymore. But the message still has to be spoken. Someone still has to say it. Why? Because it allows you to connect the dots. See, I couldn't just start this video with the draft is gonna turn our boys into men. I couldn't start it like that. That's too much. Most minds of even the accomplished wouldn't be able to grasp the sense behind that, the rationality behind that. See, the pragmatism, how that's pulled from an ancient scroll. So I had to walk you through the Spartans. I had to take you through to the wokeism that we're dealing with. I had to talk about the 4 pillars. Be fruitful, multiply, replenish, subdue. Why? So we can all connect the dots. See? That's what this is all about. People are trying to connect the dots, and they can't. Marxism is too deeply woven into the fabric of the minds of our nation. With the intricate use, I must say, shout out to the high table, because with the intricate use of the Hegelian dialectic, it has turned the so-called man into the new woman. It has turned the woman, so-called woman, into the new so-called man. And And the interesting thing, the funniest thing is that with all these role changes, no one's doing a good job. No one has mastered the change of roles. If it was a performance chart, it'll be a seesaw. It'll be a cup handle. A continuous cup handle, just up and down, up and down, up and down. See? With these role changes, everyone sucks at their new job, at their new role. The men being women and the women being men. Or the males being females and the females being males. Everyone sucks at it. And the fact that they're still doing it tells me that this isn't about mastering anything. It was never about that. It wasn't even about being happy, because the people are still miserable when they change roles. What this is all about is the satisfaction of spitting in God's face. That's what everyone wants to do. But little do they know. Little do they know. They have no idea. God is so far above these games, He couldn't care of a quantum amount less. God couldn't even barely care about someone's insults to Him. I like that Netflix series, The Blood of Zeus. I like the third season's portrayal of Gehenna, the lake of fire. I like their portrayal of it because, according to that mythos, they say that when someone goes into that lake, even if they're a immortal deity, they can't come back from it. That's a death that they can't come back from. And they enter into oblivion. Not a realm called oblivion. No, they're done. They never existed. That's how much they're erased. They're abolished. Their abolishment from existence is so bad that they never existed if they enter into that lake. According to the scriptures, God's going to send people there in the trillions. Do you really think the rebellion of mankind could mean any less to the Most High God? Do you really think that? I'm telling you, the more you learn about God, the more pathetic everyone else appears for rebelling against Him. And the closer you get to God, or I should say, the more masculine you become, the closer you get to God. See, that's the privilege that we have as men. Women, they hit a wall when it comes to getting close to God. Prayer is really their only gateway to the Most High. Why? Because God only expects so much obedience from the woman. For good reason. He didn't create the woman to do a lot of the things that He requires from mankind. But the man, there's really no limits to how close we could get to God. See, there's no limits to how close women could get to God through prayer, right? But for the man, you can't even exhaust it. You can't even express it. Scripture says that Moses was so close to God that his face shone as if he was God. And it didn't say that in those terms, but people's reaction to Moses when he came down from that mountain, or when he stood at the edge of it, was the same reaction that they had with God. That's the power of masculinity when you tap into it. It gets you closer to the Most High. See? The more of a man you become, the higher your masculine power levels are. This is done through obedience. The higher your levels are, your power levels are, your masculine power levels are, the closer to God you become. And the more like God you are in this world. Not Jesus, I'm talking about the Most High. This was God's original plan. Why else would He give us His Spirit? You ever gave your spirit to somebody? Why else would He give us His Spirit? Why else would He give us an earth to manage? Why else would He make us the manager of a mechanism that produces a incubating mechanism within it that can duplicate itself to put us over creation in the process of it. That's what gardening is. It's the craft of creation, godly craft. Really recreation. Why else would God trust us with that? What is He telling you? What is the scriptures telling you? What is God telling you through the scriptures? He wants us to be Him in this world. And He wants us to get as close to Him as humanly possible. And to never stop, to become more and more like Him. Why am I breaking this down? How did we get down this road? Because the more you become like God, the more masculine you become, the more you become like God, the more you see things the way that He sees things. And the more laughable these fools are when they try to live a life in rebellion to Him. The human side says people shouldn't be sent to hell for an eternity. But that masculine God side in you says no one put a gun to their head to make them go. See, it takes a man to say that. It takes a man to say that. See, and that's why toxic masculinity is placed in this world, so that you can't think like God concerning these things. If you believe in toxic masculinity, then you can't think like God when it comes to the afterlife and people's fate when they leave this world. So guess how many people are going to go to the wrong place if masculinity is toxic? This wasn't the plan to go down this road. But since we're here, let's walk a little further, then I'll finish. The ant has life in it. It is smaller than you. In many cases, you can't even see it. And the right situation is non-existent to you. But it has life in it. If one were to die, you would do anything but cry. But life still went out of it. See? There are layers between you and the ant. What do you think the layers are between you and God? See, this is where your average Christian, God bless the Christian soul. God bless the modern day Christian soul. But this is where your average Christian would start to try to use Christian mythology and mystify it. Right? They'll say, well, you have Jesus. Jesus is the bridge. Then they'll say, well, the Holy Spirit. And the Holy Spirit is the bridge. So God has emotions and feels for us because Jesus made it so. So even if we're an ant, God has love for that ant. Okay. The question is, you as a human, if you loved an ant, love in the definition that we're familiar with, and it defined you. It broke your law. Do you spare it, or do you send it in a fire that's not just going to abolish it, but that's going to cause the ant to suffer for the rest of existence? I rest my case. You have to be layers above someone to put them through that kind of suffering. Layers. I heard a good man of God say, Jesus is going to cry for us when that's our fate. If that's our fate, for those that have that fate, Jesus is going to cry for those. The Holy Spirit's take on it, that's another story. But the Most High, you have to understand, the only way you're gonna get God, the only way you're gonna understand God, is if you become a man first. You have to be a man to understand God. God only reveals Himself to men. Not males that think like women. Not boys that haven't been initiated into men. Not women that have respect for men. God reveals Himself the way that He has always revealed Himself, to the man. Don't believe me? Look at Genesis 3. When the serpent asked Eve, which her name was just a woman in that sense, when he asked her what will happen if she ate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, she said, God said, if ye touch it, or do not eat from it, or touch it, lest ye die. When just a couple of passages before that, God's telling Adam, for in the day that ye eat from it, ye shall surely die. He didn't say anything about touching. Why? They were gardeners. They were supposed to touch everything. So what does that tell you about what Eve understood about God's word? It was given to her by Adam. And Adam had a hunch about his wife. He understood his wife may, just may, be tempted, more tempted than he to eat from that tree. So he told her that God said, don't eat from it and don't even touch it, or you'll die. Smart man. Smart man. What does that tell us? What does that tell us about God? He only spoke to the man. it's important to be a man. If you're a male, you have to be a man first to even utter the name of God. Otherwise, it's not for you. That's why Christians, this is subconscious, and I'm glad that they feel this way, but that's why Christians feel grieved about when people say God damn. That's why Christians feel grieved about it, because they feel like no one has the right to damn something in the name of God. And with ignorance, they say that the reason why you shouldn't say that is because you're using God's name in vain. But God isn't God's name. And to say that God is damning something isn't vain. Because Scripture says He will bless those that bless you, and He will damn those who damn you. He will curse those who curse you. But when you're a man, see, you interpret even things like that properly. You understand saying God damn is not saying God's name in vain. You understand that if anyone has the right to speak of something being damned by God, is the man. Because the man is of God. The man, not the male that has something to prove. The man. The man operates in the nature of God. See, and the man is in the complete will of God. The man lives a life that follows the law of Moses to the T. This is why Marxism had to be introduced. This is why. Because the philosophers, the dark philosophers, which I believe were influenced by who the church would call the enemy. Those that read the book of Enoch know that it's Gadriel, that's his name. Isn't that ironic? But the philosophers that were being used by dark forces, they understood that men kept going back to God. Something kept drawing them back to God. And they realized that on a social aspect, it was philosophy that was actually doing it. Philosophy kept causing men to look up. Even though they had no revelation of the Most High God. I'm talking men from Egypt, men from Greece, men from Asia. Wherever there was some form of philosophy, there was some form of worship to God. It didn't matter what the religion was. You have to remember, religion was created. Spirituality wasn't. A relationship with God wasn't created, except for maybe perhaps God. If you could say it was created at all, it's not a creation. But these dark philosophers noticed that philosophy kept bringing people back to God. So they came up with an anti-philosophy. It's called Marxism. And with Marxism, psychology was born. So now you have clinical anti-philosophers. See, psychologists learn philosophy so that they could pick it apart and so that they could use the basis of these schools of thought so that they could use them for the purpose of witchcraft, mental witchcraft, and pharmaceutical, of course. If it's a psychologist, it's mental. If it's a psychiatrist, it's mental but pharmaceutical. See, and I could keep going, but dark philosophy was created to take God out of the picture. That's where I believe it was John Kent that George Hegel, that came up with the concept of killing God. Just getting rid of the whole idea of him so we could get to bigger, better things. And it started to start something. This snowball effect started to pick up, and it allowed magic and witchcraft to actually have a more influential presence. But the first layer of this pizza it was Marxism. See, Marxism, along with the use of the Hegelian dialectic, which is, it's within Marxism, is in there. Once you put Marxism onto something, now you can open the door for psychology. Without Marxism, there's no need for psychology. Why? You have too much reason and rationality to fall for any psychological spell. See? So it's very important to understand the man is where it's at. If you're a male, you want to make sure that you're being a man. You want to make sure that you have properly been initiated into manhood, and that you're constantly initiating yourself every day, going through your initiations every day. Why? So that God don't have to initiate you. They say it comes in 12s. Your first 12 is your first 12 days into this world. See? Your eyes start to open. They say really your first 12 months in this world. Your eyes open and you have your first initiation. Why? Because you can actually see mama, but then you can see dada also. And now you know, oh, it's not the same person. These two voices aren't coming from the same person. There's my mom and then there's my dad. That's an eye-opener to a child. The next 12 years, that child realizes, oh, I could pick stuff up. And if mommy tries to get tough with me, I could get tough right back with her. See, the father's supposed to be in that boy's life when he realizes that. Why? So he could whip him back into discipline, whip him back into order. And say, no, we're not raising cowards in this house. Cowards that raise their hand against their mother. See? The next 12 years, 24. See? Now this boy is dumped into this world of challenge, of responsibility, where everyone is expecting for him to be fruitful, multiply, replenish, and subdue this earth. But they're at least looking at the production, because he's young. They want to know what he's producing into this world. See? And this is an initiation into manhood, where he has to realize, oh, people depend on me. I can't just expect for someone to provide for me like my mother has. I have to be like my father. I have to be the provider. I have to be like my father. That's another initiation. Then the age of 30 comes, where it helps him for the next initiation, and a part of his mind is opened up. Now he has a greater sense of common sense. But the next 12 comes. Now he's 36. See? And this eye-opener is, okay, what have I done with myself? Have I bested my father at this age? Have I become better than my father? Or would he be ashamed? You want to initiate yourself every day, because these 12-year initiations, these initiations by 12, this is God initiating you. And if God has to initiate you, I'm telling you, you're failing the test. You have father figures to initiate you. If your father wasn't in your life, there's uncles, there's father figures. You could choose. They're the ones in life that are close to you, but they're where you want to be 5 years from now, or 20, 30 years from now. Then there's your brothers. If you were born with brothers, that's good, but there's also your wolf pack that you have to build. See, they are where you want to be 5 years from now, and you get to choose them too. But you got to show up. You use these avenues to initiate yourself every single day. You initiate yourself in the gym. You initiate yourself with productivity, pushing yourself. You initiate yourself with fasting, with rejecting yourself of the pleasures that you want to indulge in that makes no sense for you to be doing. You reject those things. That's your initiation every single day. Because the boy, he's weak, but his voice is strong in the head of the uninitiated. His voice is strong. See? I don't want to go too deep here, but they say kill the boy. But God gives you the boy for a reason. Because that boy is that part of you that you need for when you have children. It's the only thing that's going to allow you to relate to your children. So you don't want to kill the boy. You just want to keep him in control. And you want to pull him out for whenever you need him. You know, it's a great thing to pull the boy out when you're spending time with your wife. Because women, they're children with breasts. And we want to keep them that way. We want to keep our women very innocent, very childish. We don't want our women doing the thinking. See, you want a submissive woman that is okay trusting you. That's fine with trusting you. See. If you made it this far, you have enough to write your own book. As I always advise you all to do, you all have your own book to write. Write it. But as men, we have to understand we're the ones that people have to go to learn about God. It's us. See? It's us. Oh, I could go deeper on that. Oh, I could go deeper. We've gone far enough. But just keep that in mind. With this draft, a lot of boys, they're going to be given the opportunity to become men. When you're a man, you're the closest thing that people would get to God. You're the one that people have to go to learn about God. When you're a man, you get to see things even like this draft. Things like this draft. You get to see it the way that God will see it. See? Because you're in a full nature that has the lightning of God in your veins. It's called masculine energy. And the more masculine you are, the more you can think like God. This can get dangerous. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not gonna lie to you. Because everybody thinks they're doing God's work. Hitler thought he was doing God's work, and his thought processes were pretty masculine. They were hyper masculine. But it just so happened that he was born into a secret society, and his agendas were so occultic and esoteric that most people that know history still don't understand his assignment, still to this day. So that's a good, bad example. But that's why masculine thinking can be dangerous. That's why so many people are afraid of it. They know what mountains you can move, what people, what groups you can influence when you step into it. But that's what being a man is all about. You get to be dangerous. The idea is to control it. The idea is to align yourself with the Most High the entire time. The idea is to stick with it when everyone's against you. The idea is to be okay with being hated. Just as long as you're a man. That's all that matters. So I'll leave you all with that. Don't look at this draft like a woman, like a mother would. Don't look at this draft even like a politician would. Look at this draft like a man. Because that's the closest way to seeing it the way God sees it. Love you guys. Stay wise.